a little bit of shyness at first, I have come prepared with questions that I can ask you. But what I would first like you to do is introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourself professionally, in just like 1, 2, or 3 minutes. And then we'll just open it up for questions. Can we start with you, Josh, since you are first on my screen?
Sure. I'm grateful to be here today. My name is Josh Alvarez. I graduated Tucson in 2016. Currently, I'm working at the Pew Charitable Trust and their government relations shop. I oversee our government engagement within Pew's safety and justice portfolio. So that has everything to do with criminal justice and civil legal and mental health and justice programs. I also do that same work for our efforts in Philadelphia. Pew is based out of Philadelphia. How I got here, I've always been in the third sector. I've always gone back and forth from politics, policy, and practice. I initially started off doing an internship at the UN that turned into a job opportunity. Internship and a job opportunity in DC in the Senate office. I was there for a long time, kind of getting my policy chops, got burnt out, moved to New York, and I started doing more advocacy type jobs, which was a great experience. Sort of hit a wall, and that's when I then decided to go back to grad school. I realized that I needed to get the skills to kind of advance in my profession. In grad school, I really took advantage of some opportunities that were available to me. I did an internship at the Baltimore Mayor's office. I did a fellowship at another big nonprofit out here in DC. And then after that, I kind of jumped and did some electoral politics. Was hoping to get a job after an election that didn't pan out the way that I wanted to. But then I pivoted back into advocacy post-election. And then most recently, I kind of pivoted back into I was a practitioner. I took a job in Philadelphia. I was working in jails and prisons, ensuring that people were treated fairly while they were incarcerated. That was a great job. And then as we moved back to DC at the start of the pandemic, I found this current job at Pew that was kind of a mixture of both my policy and my practitioner experience. And it was a unique opportunity where I got to use like my policy chops and then my direct service from jails and prisons. And so I have been here for about 3 years. It's been an amazing ride. Pew is a great place to be. And yeah, happy to talk about that later.
And Josh, just for those who may not know, can you say what government relations is? Are you talking about advocacy, lobbying, communication?
It's all three. But yes, I am a registered lobbyist in a few states, but I do manage the advocacy portfolio, and I do a lot of the comms and workshopping for when we're engaging with with government officials.
Thanks.
Carrie, you're next on my screen.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here. I'm Cara Terzulli, MPA 2009. I currently serve as Assistant Vice President and Deputy to the Provost at Adelphi University in New York. Regarding my current role, when people ask me what I do, I often think, oh, geez, how much time do we have? So my role is kind of all-encompassing. I oversee all academic budgets and finance matters, high-level academic searches, all personnel matters for the Chief Academic Officer, which is the Provost, all academic communications and risk management, academic facilities, including long and short-term facilities planning. I'm the primary conduit to legal affairs on academic matters. I work across departments on high-level faculty matters. I oversee all summer academic programming, including a ranked pre-college program for high school students. I serve as the main resource regarding nonprofit and corporate governance at the university, including shared governance, which is an area of expertise of mine. So I work primarily with trustees, faculty, and staff on those areas. I interact regularly with university trustees on governance matters, and I speak on behalf of the provost on all the things within my purview. So when I was an MPA student, I worked in government in DC, and following the completion of my degree, I moved to New York to be closer to family and to pursue some personal goals. But my career has been defined by the experience I received following the completion of my MPA degree, where I worked at New York University as Chief of Staff to the General Counsel and Director of the Office of the Secretary to the Board, where I oversaw all governance matters for the university and its affiliates. And I also worked on various high-level matters, including global expansion and compliance. In terms of my career path, this is kind of where I plan to stay. I love higher ed, and I love higher ed administration in particular. Sorry, I'm off-site today. I'm kind of thought I was in a quiet hallway. But so I'm really lucky right now. I work really close to home, and I am able to take advantage of flexible work policies, but I would like to pursue a PhD in the coming years and continue to grow in my career. I do want to state that in terms of impact in my field in higher ed, the quality of the education I received in the MPA program, it really can't be understated. My colleagues in leadership, the faculty I've worked with at various institutions for more than 10 years, value and respect my credentials and are really aware of the type of education I received. In my field in higher ed, we continually work towards increasing academic quality. And my time at GW initially provided me with those credentials to have a seat at the table. And now it's really a cornerstone of the type of work that I do. So.
Thank you, Kara. Claudia, you are next.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And it's so great to see everybody today. My name is Claudia, and I'm currently the Senior Director and one of the co-founders of Seek Common Ground. We're an organization that brings together nonprofit leaders that are working on similar education issue topics that are relevant in their local communities so that they have a space to share common problems, shared learnings with each other, and also have a space to just learn on the topics of the day. And so as I mentioned, I'm a co-founder, so I started this with some of my colleagues 5 years ago, really with the idea that nonprofit leaders can many times feel lonely in their space, many times feel like they're in competition with other nonprofit leaders, and really finding a space where they could actually just share what they've learned to help others kind of hit the ground running and not have to reinvent the wheel every time. And also honoring the local and community expertise that exists within each area in this country that can be elevated and find common ground with other places as well. So we provide funding for organizations to be part of these networks, but also to do short-term projects. And that allows for people to really be engaged, trying something new with the tangible resources to actually make some of that innovation happen within their space. And that idea came out of the organization that I was at before that, which is Achieve. We had a coalition support network that fostered connection and learning for coalitions that were also focusing on education policy issues across the country, but really seeing how top-down federal policy was tricky to actually make a difference many times in local communities, local schools, and for local families and students. And so it's been a really incredible journey to be able to be in a space where we can be really flexible, really shift topics as they change to meet the moments. As you can imagine, with COVID and all the challenges that the education system was having, we were able to really pivot and be there to support a lot of organizations that were supporting families and learning from home during a time where that was not really common practice. So it's been really an incredible journey. And I think part of what my time at the Trachtenberg School helped me with was just really being in tune with the issues of the day and actual policy experience and expertise, but also having the nonprofit management support to be able to start an entirely new organization. We're a fully virtual organization. So, being in a very different space than what I was at in kind of a traditional DC policy organization, but that flexibility to be able to pivot and change with the times and start something that's totally new. So really grateful to be here and see so many people on the call, and happy to answer any questions.
Milena, I didn't get to say hello to you before we started. It's nice to see you, and tell us about you.
Hi, Lori. It's interesting. When you came on, you were talking about how you didn't use LinkedIn very much. I sometimes use it. I'm going to say a frequent user, but I did recently post about this panel because when I think about my experiences at GW and some of the things that were really memorable for me at Trachtenberg School and really helped guide my career, provided me with opportunities to meet some current mentors and just meet and talk with really interesting people were opportunities like this. And we had speakers come, we had visitors come to classes, and really just taking advantage of that. So definitely we'll share with you all that, take advantage, contact us, reach out, connect, stay connected. And I agree with Kara, graduating from Trachtenberg School definitely opened a few doors. People really understood the quality of the education that was provided, and being able to collaborate and share ideas with other colleagues that I'm sure you all are doing now, and other classmates. So about me, I am the CFO for AmeriCorps. I worked at a couple of different federal agencies I will never forget, and a boss of mine some years back shared with me, as you move through your career, really do your best to find organizations that you believe in the mission. And when she said it to me at the time, I was fresh out of grad school in my, late 20s. And I was like, yeah, sure. That sounds great. And I'll try. But now that I'm at AmeriCorps, I really do see the value of being at an organization where you really appreciate and connect with the mission. So as CFO, I am not an accountant. I like to lead with that. I don't enjoy poring over financial statements. That is not my jam. But I will say that the Trachtenberg School definitely prepared me to lead as I do. I did focus on public budgeting and finance, but really what was so impactful for me was the policy aspects, and really focusing on how to resource an organization and structure an organization to achieve its mission. And that's really what I do as CFO more than anything else. Over the course of my career, I did start off as undergrad as a math and economics major. So I do like long division. I can do long division, but I do prefer strategy. And Trachtenberg School definitely prepared me for that. So I have stayed over my career. I've been at EPA. I've been with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So definitely a wide range of missions, but more than anything, really focusing on strategy, really focusing on optimizing resources and organizational structure, and just leading with that, and leading with doing my best to care about the people I work with. And a lot of these things were things that I know I talked about and discussed with classmates and in my courses at GW. So really grateful for that, but happy to share more as we move along. So thanks, Lori.
Thanks, Milena. Robert.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Robert Paxton. I'm currently the Assistant Secretary of the Senate. Then I've worked on the Hill for the most part since 1987. I started out in the mailroom of my home state senator, Wendell Ford from Kentucky. I was with him for 12 years. When he retired, I went to work in a similar capacity for Senator Schumer from New York, and I was with him for 8 years. And then I had the opportunity to be the chief of staff to the Secretary of the Senate. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the Secretary's office in a few minutes. But the Secretary of the Senate from 2007 until the Senate flipped again in 2015. Like Milena was saying, it really is important to find an organization that you believe in the mission. And I had always admired the Pew Charitable Trust. So when I was out of work at that time, I was fortunate also to land at the trust, and I was there in their executive office for 6 years, helping support the chief executive officer. And I'll also give a shout out to Denise. I was an unemployed father of 4 when I went into the career counselor's office, and I had been out at GW for 12 years, and she took pity on me and gave me the confidence that I needed to pursue a job search and land the job that I wanted. So very grateful for that. So I was at Pew for 6 years. When the Senate flipped again, I was given the opportunity to come back as assistant secretary, and I've been here for almost 3 years. The secretary's office is a nonpartisan office where the secretary herself is appointed by the majority leader, but it's in consultation and agreement with the minority leader. Most of our 240 employees are career. There are 5 of us who will come and go depending on who's in control of the Senate. If you're ever watching C-SPAN 2, you'll see a number of our employees on the Senate floor, from those who are taking verbatim transcripts of what the senators are saying, to the Senate parliamentarian who guides the presiding officer on Senate procedure, to the legislative clerk who calls out the roll. We also handle all the financial transactions of the Senate. What else? We have the historical office, the curator's office, web tech. So if you're ever on senate.gov, we're responsible for the main portions of that. And we have a gift shop and a stationery room. So we cover a little bit of everything across our 26 departments. And my role is just really to help make sure that the departments have what they need to get their jobs done, and that they know what our mission or our values are. And we have 100 very demanding clients, and so we do our best to make sure that they get the services that they need. And I will say to Lori that I had to laugh. I do remember reading Bowling Alone in one of your classes, and my 20-something-year-old daughter just recently was reading that, and she's formed a discussion group that met at Georgetown to discuss it. I think there's a documentary that's been made about it since. So
Thanks.
in any event. So, and I will just say I do appreciate the opportunities that we had at GW in terms of, I thought that like Melina said as well, we had a lot of guest speakers in, and that was it was good just to have those discussions and not just straight lectures. Like, we had the opportunity to participate.
Great. Thanks, Robert. Rich, nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well, Professor.
Tell us a little bit about yourself in like 1 to 3 minutes, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Sure, I can do that. So sorry for the technical difficulties, folks. I'm juggling a few different computers and profiles, so thank you for indulging me there. I guess last but not least, hopefully everyone before sounds like they've got great careers. I graduated 2020, the beginning of the pandemic, so I haven't had as much experience so far. But that being said, so before GW, I was in the Coast Guard, went to the Academy, 5 years active duty. I see a couple of COSIs online here, so I'm glad that we're kind of continuing that tradition there. Did my 5 years and then decided that I wanted to go back to school, and found GW, and fortunately found a great community here. I think the program is an excellent one. You might think that you don't really use it. You're probably just going to do Excel and muddle through things, but you really do use what you've learned. I think you just kind of have to scratch the surface a little bit. You can start talking about new public management, new public service, the public budgeting, accountability, the whole process. So I'll make that plug here. I think it is a valuable program. So with that said, I think current experience right now, I was at Amtrak OIG for 2 years as an auditor, looking at programs there. I looked at the Gateway program. So if you've ever taken the train up and down the Northeast Corridor, the program is about a $30 billion one to replace a lot of the tunnels and infrastructure around New York. So I was looking at project management there. I did that for 2 years and then got the opportunity to move to EY. And right now I am, let's see, the project's a little far down. So I am working for the Department of the Army as a contractor and working on an audit and auditability. So the Army has the goal of becoming auditable by 2027. They're the last federal agency to do so. So there's a lot of pressure there, and we are helping them in their enterprise resource programming transition as they're upgrading their systems. We're making sure that financial audit and auditability are accounted for in that process. So I'm mucking around in some of those details there. Other than that, happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you, and thank you, everybody. I want to open it up now to students. If you have any questions, if you're still thinking of your questions, I have some questions I can ask. But I think I saw a question in the comments from Ben.
Yeah, we did get a question in the chat.
Great. Ben.
I'm not sure if he just wants us to read it out loud, Lori, but I can read it. It says, from Elena, what was your first government position out of Trachtenberg, and what drove you to move from agency to agency?
Oh, yeah, great question. Thanks for that. I have had a history of being very fearless with the opportunities that I accept. I don't always know all the things I get myself into, but I do believe that I have the skills to really push through. My first position out of Trachtenberg was at the Securities and Exchange Commission. I mentioned my background is in econ and math, and I was a little bit, sort of toe in, toe out of, business and investment, and then public policy. And so the SEC gave me an opportunity to have kind of one foot in and one foot out. I knew after being at the Trachtenberg School, though, that I really did enjoy public policy and public administration work. So when I got to the SEC, I helped stand up their Office of Performance Improvement. So we managed the agency strategic plan, did some budget formulation. I also was offered an opportunity to go to their Office of Investment Management. So it was two very different opportunities, but I chose the one where it was sort of uncharted waters. It was standing up a new office. It was, something new and different, a whole new team. So that just sounded interesting and exciting. And so going from agency to agency was really the opportunity to continue doing that. I really like to initiate new projects. I might stay to fully embed, but if nothing else, I like to stand up. I like to build and create. So after I was at SEC for a while and had some leadership experience, that I moved on to EPA, who was standing up an Office of Enterprise Risk Management. So that was very interesting to me as well, something new and different. So I went into that. And at a time when, the environment wasn't the hot topic, hot priority some years ago. And then moved to AmeriCorps, who, were really working to improve operations there right now. They were really struggling with resources. And so another opportunity to, be a bit fearless and do something that wasn't so certain, but another opportunity to build and create. So that's been sort of what driven me from agency to agency.
Thank you. Jada.
Thank you. So my question is pretty simple. I just wanted to kind of like, how did you maximize, this could be for anyone, how did you maximize your potential just as a young professional while you were at the Trachtenberg School? And just kind of like, because I've heard a vast kind of like array of people kind of like getting an internship after the program or during the program, I guess. So yeah, how did you maximize your potential while at Trachtenberg? And this could be for anyone.
Anyone want to jump in first?
I can.
Hey, Rich.
So I was looking for an opportunity. I knew what I kind of wanted to do. It was policy analysis and program evaluation, and wanted to find something that field, kind of restart what I was doing. I think maximizing my potential really just came to connections. Can't be overstated. Go to these career events, go to the different sessions, talk to professors, talk to folks. Everybody's willing to learn and to kind of help you out in that process. This network is a really strong one, I think. And Denise I have to give props to her for, kind of keeping this going very much so. So definitely get involved where you can and get into the panels and make those connections.
Thanks, Rich. And Josh also mentioned that you should apply to anything that you're afraid of, which I think is a great answer. Do you want to elaborate on that, Josh? You're on mute. Still on mute.
My apologies. So, I think so much when I started my career and even at Trachtenberg, I saw opportunities that I just had imposter syndrome. I was just too afraid to go out of them. And it's those opportunities that seem like the reach jobs that you should really go after. The ones that you know that you can do it aren't going to really offer any growth. So if you see an opportunity that is going to push you, go for it. Like, why the heck not? The worst they can tell you is no. And so I think I learned that lesson right after grad school, and it's really paid me dividends today.
Rich, I just had a conversation recently with a student who was concerned about taking an advanced statistics course. And my response was, if you're concerned about taking an advanced statistics course, therefore you should take an advanced statistics course. So thank you. Anybody else want to answer that question?
I think one thing I'd add is when I look back to my time at Trachtenberg too, I really try to take advantage of the capstone projects and the other projects that we could do as student consultants. I actually ended up doing 2 capstone projects with 2 different organizations, and I was part of the program evaluation course with Dr. Newcomer, and was able to do a project for a local school around their science education program. And so when I think back on my time, in addition to the connections and the professors and the courses, was just having that practice with different groups of students, different types of clients, and really having that opportunity to have a space to work in teams with other people, to be in that space of learning and sharing and producing, that I was able to then talk about very tangibly in interviews after my time as a student, as things that I was able to do and learn. So it was a combination of being exposed also to different ways that organizations worked, how different people work in teams, but then also kind of the process of actually being able to provide, insights to an organization. So that was really a place I don't think you can really get that type of experience anywhere else.
Kara.
Thank you. I want to echo a lot of what was said. And I also wanted to talk about faculty support at Trachtenberg. People like Mike Harmon and Donna Lindenfeld, who's now retired, they pushed me in ways, that I didn't expect, and to do things that I never thought I could do. And I still appreciate it, more than 10 years out. Sometimes when you're as far out as I am, I'm like, oh my gosh, it seems like so long ago. But the faculty, really they're there for you. And I would just kind of go. I wouldn't ask. I would just kind of show up. I think I assigned Mike Harmon as my advisor. I think I wrote, the evil paper, and I was like, you're my advisor now. I'm sorry, I'm in a hallway. And that really taught me to believe in myself. And when you come into an organization, especially in a leadership role, and maybe you're new to leadership, you have to do the same thing. You have to invite yourself. You have to kind of, learn from those around you, ask questions really quickly, and just go. And I have had to do that a couple of times in positions, and the faculty and the experiences at GW, at Trachtenberg School, gave me that confidence to just know that I have a place at the table. So I think not being afraid, and we all have, occasionally a little bit of imposter syndrome, and we have that fear. But just, the faculty support is really, I found it to be amazing. I work in higher ed, so I talk about higher ed all the time. And I tell people still, the academic experience I had at Trachtenberg School was like none other. I've seen academics at the highest level. I've worked, at extremely high level, with provosts and presidents at, New York University and other universities, including the one I'm at now. And the faculty support is something that I always try to see, how can we model this? So I think I would really encourage you to, like I said, just walk into office hours, just invite yourself into places, and you make amazing connections. And those are the people that sometimes are still encouraging you like many years later.
Cara, I didn't name names, but I just actually sat here and texted Donna Infeld and Mike Harmon what you said. So they are, well, Donna I've heard from, she's very grateful. And then I also want to just pass on a tip from Michael Harmon. He's, as Cara was saying, he's a retired professor. For those of you who do not like networking, focus instead on building relationships. And the best advice he ever gave me was get to meetings 10 minutes early. Because then you will be already there, and people will by necessity have to introduce themselves to you, and you will have that time to talk with them. So that's Mike Harmon's free advice. Let's go to Kevin Alvarez. Hey, Kevin.
Hi, thank you to the faculty who helped set this up and the panelists for being here. My question to you all, and please jump in, some of us myself, I can speak for myself, I worry about being stuck in a specific field. I'm still trying to find, what it is that truly drives me, right? At least a sector, I would say. What is a technical or interpersonal skill, or maybe a habit, one thing that comes to mind that has helped you make those transitions, if you've ever had to make one, right? That has just made you, I guess, better in your field?
It's a great question. Any takers?
Jump in. I could jump in just because this was a big part of my transition when I was at Trachtenberg. I was actually, during that time, I was working at an organization that was a network for Latin American CEOs, which was not related to what I was doing in terms of content as an MPA student, focusing on education policy. And so I really did feel stuck. I felt like I was in these two worlds. And finally, what helped me get a job in what I was studying for was that I really focused on the skills that were transferable. And so during that time that I was at the Latin American CEO network, I was managing a network. And so even though the population was different, the issue area was different. When I saw this opportunity to manage a network of education advocacy coalitions, which is what I wanted to do, I really was able to focus on the skill of being able to manage a network really effectively. And so I think that's something that it might seem like there maybe isn't an overlap into kind of steps in your progression, but if you can focus on like what you can bring to the table and what you can contribute, that's really what, and now being on the employer side, like that's really what is quite important, is what you can kind of offer an organization that you can hit the ground running with, regardless of the content area. So I think just being flexible and being holistic about what you can offer, and not getting too bogged down on the what, but mostly the how and what you can contribute.
Any other takers for that question?
Yeah, I'll just agree with Claudia. It's really the transferable skills. And I say that, as a CFO, and I've worked a lot in CFO organizations and, sort of operations or the CEO's office. It is really easy to become sort of a technical expert at the technical things. And it's okay. You do that, definitely, right? As Lori said, take the statistics classes, know how to do the long division, but really focus on and amplify, like Claudia said, those transferable skills, your ability to communicate written and verbally, your ability to connect, your ability to collaborate, your ability to see things or bring your perspective, and share that perspective and get people to buy into that perspective, because no matter what you're doing or what office or what you might be doing specifically in your role or your title, those are the things that all organizations need. And by focusing on that and sharing what you bring in those spaces, you will be able to really drive and pick and choose where you go, because those will be skills that everyone will want and everyone will need if you can really do them well. So focusing on that, and the connecting and yeah, having empathy and really being able to connect with your colleagues, your everyone around you, whether they have a bigger title than you or not so big of a title. Really being able to do that, the people part, is really, really important.
Thank you. Jade, you have a question for the panel.
So I'm actually a recent grad. I'm on the job hunt, and I guess what I've kind of been running into is that I find different passion areas. Denise and Melissa have been wonderful with this, but just trying to kind of narrow down where I'm applying to. I've been through to a couple of interview rounds, whether it be federal or to nonprofits, and I just feel myself not getting through, like, for various reasons, but also how to narrow down that scope, because I know it's really about networking connections, but like, I guess when I'm applying, it seems like such a broad scope of interest, like anything that's intersectional and like for social good. But like, what is your advice for, I guess, recent or like current students, to really make the most of, like, maybe the underground market, networking, or how to get past to a person, or just kind of narrow down that search? Sorry, I know that's a very wide question. But if anyone has any insight, I would really appreciate it.
Kara.
Thank you. So I think connections are a huge part of it. And I think also, again, reach out to people that maybe you don't know personally. I had a mentee that GW set me up with years and years ago. And he would look at my LinkedIn and he would say, hey, can you connect me with this person? And I would always do it because, I had developed a relationship with him and I felt comfortable recommending him. But still to this day, like more than 10 years later, he reaches out to me, and he did it the other day. He was like, hey, do you know this person at Samsung? And I was like, this is kind of an amazing thing. Like, we had a relationship 12 years ago, as mentor and mentee, set up by GW. And he still reaches out to me. And I think, I do the same thing. I still reach out to people. And sometimes you get afraid, right? You're like, oh my gosh, this person is like, remember me, or, you have that fear. So I think mining your contacts is really, really important. And I also think, like, don't doubt yourself. Like, you have the skills and you have the ability to do it. And I know it's really frustrating. I think we've all probably been through it. But I think just kind of keep mining your contacts and keep applying to jobs that you're interested in. I think it's hard when you're at the intersection of trying to choose one path or another. Don't discount connections that you might feel to people that you interview with, because being at an organization where you have a great working relationship is invaluable. I think people, a lot of times, maybe not in our field and not this degree program, feel the need to constantly strive for more money or a bigger title. And I always try to explain to people, like, there's being appreciated and being valued for what you bring to the table and your experience is more than money. It's more than your title. So yeah.
Thank you. Josh, I see your hand up.
So many mute buttons. I would echo everything Kara just said. And then I think we've all been in that position right after grad school or in between jobs where you really just have to be shameless who you reach out to and shameless who you ask for help. Like, I know for me, I would look for people whose job I wanted, and I would do that outreach and just have that friendly conversation as to how they got to where they were and just try to build that relationship. And so many times I had them reach out to me and be like, oh, we're not hiring here, but this other organization has a position that I think you would be great for. And so really just mine your contacts, as Kara mentioned, and really just use them to the best of your ability, because a lot of times it just pays back. It pays off in the end.
Thanks, Rich.
Sure. Completely agree. Excuse me. And just wanted to add as well, supporting your network isn't just kind of asking for help. Hey, can you connect me? Can you, go here, do this, that. It's also trying to help people as well, doing that on both sides. So that way, when you get known for something as you're building the brand, kind of your brand, to use consultant speak, unfortunately, you get known, they're good at this. You can do this. You got something to offer. And as you help people, people will naturally, I think, want to say, hey, I saw this opportunity it might be good for. Hey, here's something interesting. And you really start to build kind of that, community, not just I'm asking people for help and trying to figure things out. Again, it's a bit long term, but it's another part of the network.
I don't think, Lori, we had any other questions in the chat.
Oh, Lori, you're muted.
Sorry, that was me today. I have one question before we let you go into chat rooms. If we've been talking about all happy things, and this sort of gets at maximizing the time and energy students put into a program. I'm a firm believer that we often get what we put in. If there was one thing you could do differently about your time in the MPA program, what would it be? So is there something you did that you wish you hadn't? That could be a lesson for current students, or is there something you didn't do that you wish you had that could be a lesson from students? And we actually have 2 more questions now, so very quickly. Okay, move on to student questions. Ben has one, and he's already asked his question, so I will move to Jaya, and then Ben will hit you then.
Hey, thanks, Lori. Thank you everyone for taking the time and doing this, really helpful insights. The question that I have is specifically targeted towards Richard. And for someone who wants to get a foot in the door in the field of consulting, I wanted to understand your perspective and your opinion on how you navigated your field towards EVI, and were there any specific courses that you took while you were a part of the Trachtenberg School?
Sure. I'll say, I think the thing that I tried to do most was go to the panels with, consultants, trying to figure out what they're doing and, just get an idea of what that is. So no specific courses in particular. I think, as some have echoed here, it's really about what you can offer. So building that technical base and then becoming known for that, and then figuring out, okay, well, there's an organization doing this. I'd like to apply, see if I can get a job, and kind of go from there. Really, I was working in Amtrak OIG and, got an opportunity from EY. Hey, we'd like to take you on board because you have some expertise and experience that we find interesting. So really it's, trying to build that base, try and get in where you can. That's what I would say.
All right, thank you very much, Richard.
Really quickly, we have another question. Do any of you have your PMPs? And how did you go about doing that? Claudia put one answer in the chat. Rich, you have your hand up. Did you want to respond to that?
Sure, I do. I think it's worth it. It gives you some experience, some knowledge on the, what is it, the inputs, outputs, processes, et cetera. And I think they've gone to 7th edition now, which is more of like the, I forget what they call them, but it's principles of project management. So it's useful there to give you that technical background, that expertise. And I think as well, it gives you that certification. I know it's a big thing in consulting. Get your certifications, get those letters after your name. So the more that you can kind of put that there, demonstrate you have that knowledge, have that experience, because you need experience to get the cert, you can demonstrate to others as well, this is what I can do. It's another way of kind of showing your capabilities. So I think it's valuable if you have the experience and the drive to do it.
Thank you. And we were recently talking about this at a faculty meeting. I believe for those of you who do client projects in the program, I believe you can use those hours towards your PMP. So it is worth checking in on that. Okay, Denise, I'm going to turn it back over to Denise, who is, I believe, going to offer some breakouts.
Let me stop recording. I want to just first thank everybody. This was absolutely tremendous. I personally, after 12 years, get something from learning from each of you. So thank you very much. And the students, fantastic questions. And to Lori for wonderful moderating.